A lawyer who has defended thousands of DUI cases just told the public something the police do not want you to hear. If a cop says the words, "I smell alcohol," during a traffic stop, that one sentence can send you to jail. Most drivers do not know what to say back. They panic. They talk too much. They admit things they did not have to admit. Then they get arrested. They lose their license. They pay thousands of dollars in fines and insurance. Some lose their jobs. Some lose custody battles. Some spend the next 10 years living with a DUI on their record. That is what is at stake right now, and it can happen to anyone. Here is what the police are counting on. They want you to keep talking. They want you to say yes to their questions. They want you to step out of the car. They want you to take field tests. They want you to blow into their handheld device. Every word you say and every test you take gives them more evidence to use against you in court. That is exactly how they build the case against you. The system is set up so the driver talks himself into a conviction. Knowledge is your best protection. The government counts on you not knowing your rights. This channel changes that. In the next few minutes, you will learn exactly what to say when a cop says he smells alcohol. You will learn the 3 magic words that protect you. You will learn which tests you should never take. You will learn the questions you must never answer. You will learn why staying quiet is your strongest move. You will learn what the law actually says about refusing a search. And you will learn the one thing that stops the case before it reaches a courtroom. Stay until the end. Write these words down. They could save your license, your money, and possibly your freedom. It happens more often than you think. You are driving home from dinner. Maybe you had 1 glass of wine with food. Maybe you had nothing at all. Maybe your passenger spilled a drink. Maybe you used mouthwash before driving. None of that matters to the officer. A police car pulls up behind you. The lights come on. You pull over. The officer walks up to your window. He asks for your license and registration. You hand them over. Then he leans down, looks at you, and says the words that change everything. He says, "I smell alcohol." Some officers say it before they even see your face. Some say it the second you roll down the window. Some say it after you hand over your paperwork. No matter when he says it, those 5 words are not a question. They are a legal weapon, and they are aimed straight at you. That simple phrase gives the officer legal permission to do almost anything. It gives him a reason to ask you to step out of the car. It gives him a reason to give you field sobriety tests. It gives him a reason to search your vehicle. It gives him a reason to slap handcuffs on your wrist and drive you to the station. Most drivers believe they have to cooperate. They think if they refuse anything, they look guilty. They think saying no will make things worse. So they get out of the car, they try to walk in a straight line, they try to stand on one leg, they blow into the handheld device, they answer every question the officer asks. And by the time they realize what is happening, they are already in the back of a squad car heading to jail. The truth is, the phrase, "I smell alcohol," is one of the easiest things for a police officer to say. They do not need a breathalyzer result. They do not need a blood test. They do not need any proof at all. Their nose is the only test they need. And in most states, an officer's word carries more weight in court than yours. That is exactly why knowing what to say back is so important. The words you choose in the next 60 seconds of that stop will decide whether you go home to your family or go home in handcuffs. Make sure you have already practiced those words before you ever get pulled over. That is the difference between freedom and a conviction. So what do you actually say when a cop tells you he smells alcohol? Here is the exact answer. Say these words out loud, slowly, clearly, and politely. "I do not consent to any searches. I want to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer." That is the magic phrase. Say it once, then say it again if the officer asks another question. Then stop talking entirely. That is the whole rule. No matter what the officer says next, no matter how many questions he asks, no matter how long you sit on the side of the road waiting, your answer does not change. 3 sentences. That is all you need. Let me say those words one more time so they stick in your mind. "I do not consent to any searches. I want to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer." 3 short sentences. That is your entire defense during a DU. I stop. The first sentence blocks the officer from searching your car without a warrant. The second sentence blocks you from answering questions that the prosecutor will later use against you. The third sentence forces a lawyer into the room before the officer can build more evidence. Every DUI case is built on what the driver says and does during the traffic stop. Take away those words and those tests, and you take away most of the case. That is how powerful these 3 sentences are. Memorize them tonight. When you say these words, your tone matters just as much as the words themselves. Stay calm, stay polite, stay clear. Do not raise your voice. Do not argue. Do not get hostile. Do not move around the car. Officers are trained to watch for behavior they can use as evidence. If you yell, that becomes signs of impairment. If you refuse to make eye contact, that becomes suspicious behavior. If you ask too many questions back, that becomes extreme caution required. The best move is simple. Keep both hands on the steering wheel. Keep your voice steady. Speak the 3 sentences out loud. Then go completely silent. Hand over your driver's license, your registration, and your proof of insurance when asked. Then stop answering anything else. That is the whole playbook for the next 60 seconds. What you should never say is just as important as what you should say. Never say, "I only had 1 drink." That one sentence is enough to start a DUI case in most states. Never say, "I am not drunk." That is also an admission that alcohol is involved. Never say, "I was just at a bar." That tells the officer exactly how to write the police report. Never agree to take the field sobriety tests. Those tests are designed for failure, especially at night on the side of a busy road where the pavement is uneven and the lights are flashing in your eyes. They are not passable by most sober drivers. Never agree to the handheld breath test, sometimes called the PBT. That machine is not required by law in most states, and it is often inaccurate. And never ever say the words, "I have nothing to hide." That sentence has put more innocent people in jail than almost any other phrase in the English language. Now let me explain why these words protect you under the actual law. Your protection comes from the United States Constitution. The highest court in the country has made this rule clear many times. You have the right to stay silent, and that right comes from the Fifth Amendment. You have the right to refuse consent to a search, and that right comes from the Fourth Amendment. You have the right to a lawyer, and that right comes from the Sixth Amendment. When you put all 3 of these rights together, you have a shield that even the police cannot easily break. They have to follow the rules. If they break those rules, the evidence they collected can be thrown out of court. That means their entire case against you collapses. That is how powerful your rights are when you actually use them. The most important court case here is called Missouri versus Seibert. In that case, the highest court ruled that police cannot question you first, get a confession, then read you your rights afterward, and use that confession against you. That ruling protects you when an officer starts asking questions about alcohol before telling you what your rights are. Another important case is Berkemer versus McCarty. That case ruled that the rights they read when arresting you also apply during a regular traffic stop. That means if an officer arrests you for DUI, anything you said before the arrest without a lawyer present can sometimes be thrown out by the judge. These cases built the wall that protects you today. They are the reason the magic words actually work in real life and not just on paper. But there is one thing most people do not realize about DUI law. In almost every state, there is something called the implied consent rule. That rule says that when you got your driver's license, you already agreed to take a chemical test if you were lawfully arrested. So if you refuse a breath test, blood test, or urine test after an officer actually arrests you, your license can be suspended automatically. In many states, that suspension lasts 1 year. In some states, it lasts longer. The smartest move is to use the magic words early. Stop the questions before the arrest happens. Stop the field tests before the officer can build evidence. Stop the case before it ever reaches the chemical test stage. That is where most DUI cases fall apart. That is where you win. Now let me tell you about the states, because this is where things get tricky. Different states have different rules about DUI stops. Some states are strict implied consent states. If you refuse a chemical test after a lawful arrest, your license gets taken away automatically, with no hearing required. Other states give you an automatic hearing. Some states require a blood test if the officer says he smells alcohol and you have been in a crash. Some states allow roadside breath tests that are not required, but helpful for the prosecutor, so you have to know the rules where you live. The rules in California are not the same as the rules in Texas. The rules in New York are not the same as the rules in Florida. Driving across state lines without knowing those rules is one of the biggest mistakes Americans make every day. In California, refusing a chemical test after a lawful arrest can lead to a 1-year license suspension for a first offense and longer for a second offense. In Texas, refusing a breath test can lead to a 180-day suspension with no opportunity for a hardship license during that time. In Florida, refusing a test leads to a 1-year suspension for a first refusal and 18 months for a second. In New York, refusing a chemical test leads to a 1-year revocation, and the refusal itself can be used against you in court as evidence of guilt. In Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Alaska, refusing a test is even worse. The jury can hear that you refused, and many juries treat that as a sign of guilt. That is why some defense lawyers still recommend taking the test in those states, even though the magic words earlier in the stop are still your strongest move. Other states, like Washington and Oregon, have stricter DUI laws than most. Even a tiny amount of alcohol can lead to arrest if the officer says he smells it. That is why drivers in those states must be extra careful. In Arizona, Missouri, and Georgia, the implied consent law is very strict, and refusing a test can make your case much harder to defend. In Pennsylvania and New Jersey, field sobriety tests are often given even when drivers want to refuse. So the safe move is the same in every state. Use the magic words the moment the officer says he smells alcohol. Do not wait. Do not try to talk your way out. Do not answer any questions about where you came from, where you are going, or what you drank tonight. Most officers in every state respect these rights. They may not like them. They may push back. They may even say it will be easier if you cooperate. Do not fall for it. Cooperation during a DUI stop almost always means giving the officer more evidence. The magic words stop that from happening. Let me talk about special situations because not every DUI stop looks the same. If you are a passenger in the car and not the driver, you still have the right to stay silent. You do not have to answer questions. You do not have to identify yourself in most states unless you are actually being arrested. If the officer asks if you have been drinking, even as a passenger, give the magic words and stay quiet. Make the officer come up with proof on his own. That is his job, not yours. If you are on foot and not in a car at all, the rules are slightly different. Police need a stronger reason to stop you on foot than in a car. They need what lawyers call reasonable suspicion, which just means a real reason to think you did something wrong. But once they stop you, the same constitutional rights apply. If they ask about alcohol, give the magic words. Do not agree to a search. Do not agree to a breath test, even if they offer one. Most officers do not carry portable breath devices for people on foot, but some do. The magic words cover every case, no matter where the stop happens or how it starts. If you are with your family, especially with children in the car, the magic words still work. But there is one extra step. Tell the officer calmly that there are children in the car. Ask if you can arrange for someone to pick them up before the stop continues. Do not let the officer use your kids as a reason to make you comply. Do not let them say, it will be faster if you just take the test. The faster you give in, the more evidence the officer collects. The magic words are still your best move, even with your kids in the back seat. If the officer is recording you with a body camera or a dash camera, that is actually good for you. Recording means everything you say and everything the officer does is preserved on tape. The magic words are even stronger on a recording. If you say, I want to remain silent, and the officer keeps questioning you, that is a violation. If they read you your rights after you already invoked them, that case can be thrown out at a suppression hearing. Recording is your friend, even though it feels scary. The magic words on a recording can win your case, even when the facts look bad. If you are asked for your identification, you must give it in every state. You are required to show your driver's license when an officer asks. Hand it over without argument. But everything else after that is optional. You do not have to answer where you are going. You do not have to answer where you came from. You do not have to answer if you have been drinking. You do not have to take any field test. The magic words cover all of it. The moment you hand over your license, That is the moment you say the 3 sentences. Then you stop talking. If the officer asks if you have any weapons in the car, give the magic words. You do not have to answer that question. If you do have a weapon and you live in a state where you must disclose it, then disclose it calmly after the magic words. But do not give more detail than required. Do not show the officer where the gun is. Do not reach for it. Just say you have one and that it is legally registered. The magic words still lead. Here is one more thing that surprises most drivers. The handheld breath test the officer carries is almost always optional. That little device on the officer's belt is not the same as the station house machine. In most states, you can refuse it without any penalty at all. In some states, refusing it is even used to help your defense because that machine is famously unreliable. The chemical test at the station or hospital is a different story. Once you are arrested, refusing the chemical test can trigger the implied consent law and your license can be suspended. So again, the magic words early, before arrest, protect you the most. That is the order of operations that wins DUI cases. The best thing you can do right now is send this video to one person you love who drives. It could be your husband, it could be your wife, it could be your son or daughter, it could be your best friend, it could be your neighbor who drives every day to work. Most people never learn what to say during a DUI stop until it is too late. They learn the hard way in the back of a squad car after they have already given the officer enough evidence to convict them. That does not have to happen. Now you know. And now you can make sure that someone you love knows too. One share could save their license. One share could save their money. One share could keep them out of jail. It could keep a family together. Do not wait. Send it today. If you are not subscribed to this channel, do that right now and hit the bell. Court decisions change every week. New laws pass in every state. Police training evolves all the time. Breathalyzer technology gets updated. Implied consent rules get rewritten. This channel breaks down exactly what those changes mean for your rights, your money, and your safety. That is what this channel is here for. Knowledge is your best protection. The government counts on you not knowing your rights. This channel changes that, so make sure you do not miss the next video, because the next video might save someone you love from making the worst mistake of their life. Go check your glove box right now. Make sure you have your license and registration. Make sure you know the DUI laws in your state. If you carry a gun, know the laws about carrying during a stop. If you are a senior, know how the IRS watches bank accounts. Make sure you are not making the mistakes this video just explained. Read your state's implied consent law tonight. Write down the magic words on a piece of paper and put it in your wallet. Practice saying them out loud so they come out naturally under pressure. The next time an officer walks up to your window, you will be ready. You will say the magic words. You will go silent and you will walk away free. Remember the one thing from this video. When the officer says, "I smell alcohol," you say these words out loud, slowly, and clearly. I do not consent to any searches. I want to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. That one phrase could save your license. That one phrase could save your money. That one phrase could save your freedom. That one phrase could save your job. That one phrase could keep a family together. Write it down. Practice it tonight. Remember it. Share it with everyone you know. The more people who know, the more people are protected. That is how things change, one share at a time. Knowledge is the only thing the government cannot take away from you. Use it.